What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the THP Strength podcast. On today's episode, we will be talking about what you can do as an athlete on our training to absolutely maximize your gains and your adaptation and your improvement overall. But before we do that, we just want to make a quick shout out, basically just to us at this point, and Hawkins Dynamics, which is if you're looking for force plates and you want to check some of the stuff that we're looking at, or maybe even look into yourself, force plates are a great option. You can look at asymmetries, you can look at RFD, you can look at peak forces. They're just a really good overall tool to have if you're really working at the highest level with athletes, trying to figure out where are their gaps, where are their leaks in their ability as an athlete, in their force generating capacity. And the only way to really check into that in a very detailed manner is going to be with force plates. So you can go to Hawkins Dynamics. They have good leasing options. I don't know the exact prices off the top of my head, but definitely something to look into if you're interested. And then secondly, shout out to us. If you're interested in being coached by us, by myself and Isaiah, you can go to the website and sign up. Currently, right now, we have two options essentially, and this changes depending on as our business changes, it changes. But we have a full service option, which is basically full access to us in WhatsApp and the Facebook group. And you also obviously get programming from us in real time. So if you need a change to your program, we can make it. Or you can do training only. Training only is basically you tell us where you're at right now, and then we write a 3-month program for you based on where you're at, right? It's less individual in a sense because we're not making ongoing changes to the program, and you also get access to the Facebook group. So with that all said, we will jump into it right now. Isaiah, I will ask you this. What is your experience working with me and trying to maximize your gains as an athlete? What do you think you maybe do better than other people, or I guess between you and I, our interaction, me as your coach, you as my athlete, what's different about how you approach training maybe versus some of the other people that don't see as much progress? Also, Isaiah's really excited about his dunk session.
Yeah, it's really bad. I have an insane amount of adrenaline coursing through my veins.
It's not
right
helping
now.
our workflow, but
And it makes me a very terrible work partner later on. But I will try to keep myself
also CJ just texted
throughout
me
this
a
podcast.
picture of him squatting. So if CJ, if you're editing this is you.
So as far as your question, I think the number one thing is consistency as far as doing the training for a long period of time. So I think the thing that has set me apart from basically any other athlete is the fact that it's been years now that I've been consistently doing the weight training and dunking, and falling in love with the like basically having like a big why for what you're doing the training for. The reason I'm so consistent with the training is because I love dunking, and I have this insane drive and fire to jump higher, and I love dunking itself. Like, I love the act of jumping. I think the people who have the most trouble with staying consistent with training is people that are jumping higher because of trying to achieve a different goal, not because they just love jumping. So
you think it's like a mindset thing?
Yeah, definitely a mindset thing. Like, especially guys that are trying to jump higher for a sport, the consistency of training that you need in order to continuously get better and reach an elite level, it has to go beyond that. I think like it has to be something that you prioritize.
Unless you're like a genetic freak, in which case then nothing matters.
Yeah. But I mean, even a genetic freak, like a lot of those guys that are genetic freaks that jump higher naturally will improve more because they're good as shit at jumping higher or dunking, so they're gonna do it more.
There's that too. But I also don't think they get to the level that you're at most of the time. I think most of them won't get to the same level.
That's something. I mean, I might as well talk about it on here. And this is gonna be gassing myself up. So, but I mean, John has witnessed it. The past 2 days, I've measured the flight times of a lot of fucking people. I don't know why. Like, I've just been obsessively just measuring
We've
flight
been really
times the last
bored
couple
recently.
days.
No, I'm kidding. We've just been working a lot, and like at the end of the day, we're just dead. Like, we're just like sitting there like vegetables. Like, I just can't do anything more. And Isaiah's like, I'm just gonna measure flight times, and I'm just like sitting on.
I literally will go into a trance.
Yeah.
Like, I'll just. Like, I found a T-dub video yesterday. It's literally a 20-minute T-dub.
I literally looked at Isaiah and I was like, at this point, we're just hanging out. I was like, we're not working anymore.
And I was measuring all his flight times, and like at 30 frames per second, his flight times range anywhere from 28 to 30 frames. So that's like anywhere from 0.95 seconds in the air to a full second in the air. Mind you, 30 and 60 frames will usually give you a higher flight time than 240 frames per second.
Just so you know, that's the number of frames. If you're listening to this, you don't understand that. Cameras basically take little pictures. Like, they just take little pictures over the course of a second. So you can get 30 little pictures, or you can get 60 little pictures, or you can get 120 little pictures, or 240 little pictures in 1 second. So if you have a higher frame rate, then you're collecting more data. It's like more reliable, basically, because you're collecting more data. Your sampling rate, I think is what it's called in research, is higher. It's basically, which is better.
Because we should also explain how frame rate like equates to vertical jump. So it's basically kinematics. So the more time you're in the air for, the higher you jumped, basically. And there's no such thing as like the mythical hang time where you just hang in the air. Like you hear all the time old heads in basketball, like, oh, that guy can jump high, but he just doesn't spend as much time in the air.
Not real.
As this other guy.
It's an optical illusion.
It's the exact same thing. They're correlated perfectly, right? The longer you're in the air for, the higher vertical. Unless you dunk it, that'll usually give you a higher hang time because you're grabbing the rim for a split second or making contact with something in the air. So the most reliable measures are on a height check or like a vertex touch, if you can measure the hang time on there. And then usually how I measure it, if you want to get the same readings I'm getting, I'll start measuring on the last frame that the foot is in contact with the ground. So usually what you'll see on a 2-foot jump is both feet plant, one foot gets off the ground, and then the other foot is still on the ground slightly, and then the next frame it's off. I measure it right when the last frame it's on the ground for. Some people are very strict with it. Like, I know Billy Duran, the owner of Dunkademics, he measures it the first frame that the feet are off the ground, and then the last frame before the feet touch the ground. So he doesn't count the frames where your feet are touching, which in my opinion is like more strict. That's like too strict. But yeah, that's how I measure. So I measure it last frame feet on the ground and the last frame that it touches the ground. So I was measuring guys like, for example, Anthony Hamilton. He posted a video saying he was trying to touch 13 feet. And I was talking to John. I was like, that doesn't. That's probably 12. Like a 12-foot touch, 12-1 is what John guessed. And it got me thinking. I was like, damn, like how high does Anthony jump? So I went and measured his flight times on like his best Dunkademics videos, and it was like 59 frames on a 60 frame per second jump. And then I looked at T-Dub. He was like 28 to 30 frames, and I was like, damn, like these people are like jumping like really high. And then I went and looked up my 48-inch vertical video, like at 60 frames, like so your same measure, and it was like right at 60, and it was like higher than. I was like, what the fuck? Like I've actually measured probably like the highest jump ever in terms of flight time, like a 2-foot jump that has been recorded. Like I don't think flight time was anybody's recorded something higher.
Did Jordan's 49 inch or 49 and a half? Did his flight time?
I've measured that flight. It was a long ass time ago, and I would have to measure it again.
Did him or Jay Clark top you on that flight time?
I don't think either of them. I remember measuring their flight times because I wanted to compare my 48-inch vertical.
That's
to
actually
it.
really interesting.
That's why I feel like a lot of reaches were fudged up.
Yeah, but I mean, also like you have to take in consideration that on flight times you can have a lot of errors in the landing. Not everyone lands the same way, and that's why I don't like it. That's why I like the Vertec, and I would assume that that's probably what happened, unless you look at side by side images and you look at how everyone is landing, and they're because everyone's takeoff position is roughly the same, but everyone's landing position might not be. You know what I mean? Some people might land
like if you land with your hands
versus
up, you'll have
down
a
versus
lower flight time.
hip flexion versus knee flexion. Like it depends on how.
And that's why 1 foot jumpers.
That's why 1 foot.
That's why 1 foot
jumpers. Their
jumpers
flight
don't.
times are terrible. So like, I mean, but it's not that they're not jumping high. It's that they land with both hands above their head and on their ball of their foot.
I think flight times are better for comparing yourself to yourself. Because like usually your landings will be around
I think
the
it's called
same.
inter-rater reliability is really good, or intra-rater reliability. But inter-rater reliability is not good. So like within yourself to yourself, really good. From person to person, not very good. And like that's an important distinction because you can't really compare you to someone else. Like I mean that's why I like the Vertec the most. And we've talked about this maybe on the other episodes like measuring verticals and all stuff. And I mean, you kind of have to take a bunch of different variables into consideration and subjectively say this person probably did or probably didn't jump as high. And there's like ways you can do that. You know, I think everyone lies about the numbers that they get or they fudge the reach, or there's always some way to get around it because it's really expensive and very difficult to get reliable measurements as far as vertical leap. Other than the Vertec, in which case using the like reach absolute, I would say on the tippy toes, like reach as high as you can, but no one wants to do that because who wants to make their vertical lower? Like no one wants to do that. You know, then it's a little different. I think maybe if it were like in the NBA where your draft class is maybe, or your draft pick is maybe higher if you have a higher reach, you know what I mean? You're trying to reach as high as you can because it's not beneficial for you to have a low reach. Like at the end of the day, they care about vertical, but like they care more about how big you are. So if you're like short, you're maybe super athletic, and they're like, oh well, his reach sucks, he's small, like we can't put him on the team. Yeah, like that matters, I think. So I think maybe there it's a little bit different. I mean, some guys maybe don't care. I guess it depends on the person, but like if you're a really tall guy who has a massive reach and size is an issue for you, you're probably gonna fudge your reach. If you're like Steph Curry and you're like, I need every inch of reach I can get, you're probably gonna reach as hard as you can. So I think it just depends, but in general, I mean, there's obviously issues with it. I think I like flight times because it's like, what I like to do is look at the vertical, look at what they tested, look at what their standing reach is relative to how tall they are and see if it makes sense. Look at how long their arms are, see if it makes sense. Look at how long their neck is. That's another thing you have to consider where their shoulder girdle sits.
Another thing too is I don't do the conversion from flight time to what the vertical is. Because, like, I don't know, there's so many errors with that. Like I purely look at the flight time and see if it's going up or down. And I don't try to convert it to a vertical or a number and stuff like that because it's just, like, can be very inaccurate compared to a Vertec touch. But anyways, my point is I realized that it is really ridiculously high jumps that I've done in the past and continue to do. And this is coming from someone that, I mean, I'm not the most genetically gifted. Like, I think I'm genetically gifted in terms of my reach, and like body proportions and stuff. And then, but other than that, I would say I have above average genetics, but it's definitely not the elite genetics. And the training has been the biggest reason that I've achieved that vertical. So, so the number one thing is consistency for a lot of years. In order to have that, you have to have a really strong why on why you're training to doing that. Because there's a lot of people that lose motivation. Guys, even elite guys, so many elite guys lose motivation as far as dunking. And it's usually the guys that are like genetic freaks that it doesn't really matter if they train or not. They can still be really good. But there's very, very few elite dunkers that have that actually just consistency train like day in, day out.
Yeah, I kind of look at myself, and I'm not an elite dunker, but I probably trained longer than most anyone who's not a pro essentially, right? Like, or ever been a pro at this level. I'd say at my level, I can't think of many people who would have as much training experience maybe as I would, right? Like, I wasn't a collegiate athlete. I wasn't a pro dunker. I've never done a competition, but I've consistently trained from the time I was 13 until now. Yeah. I mean, hard. Like, every week I've been training. Basically my entire life, bar like my labrum tear at one point in my hip. And I think that, I mean, even then I still trained. I just worked around it. But that mindset, I think, is something that a lot of people lose. I think our athletes that make consistent gains and really a lot of progress are cognizant of their bodies. They understand their bodies. They have a level of like injury resilience, I would say too, but they're very cognizant of their bodies. And so that lets them not get hurt, which lets them train consistently. And they have this like intuition to know, oh, I probably shouldn't train today because I can get hurt. Or I probably should train today because I know I won't get hurt.
I wanted to get into that too.
Like that's a big
like
thing with our athletes. Is like you have to have an intuition to know when to push and when not to push, or else you're going to get hurt. There has to be some level of accountability on your end to know your own body so that you're not pushing to this position where you're not going to be able to train for 2-3 weeks. And that's whenever people get out of it. I feel like that's if consistency is the number one thing, if consistency is the number one thing that sets apart our best athletes from the people that see the most progress from the people who see the least amount of progress, that's the number one thing. Well, what's going to break consistency? Injuries, seasons, basketball seasons, volleyball seasons, like in-season stuff. And what else would you say? Motivation. Yeah.
Motivation.
And what would break motivation? Seasons and injuries.
Yeah. I wanted to touch on the motivation thing a little more. Because I was having a conversation with my girlfriend last night about like motivation to train, specifically, because she was saying how it's been a struggle to like try to like get to the gym like every single day and stuff, and then I started thinking, and like I think the average person struggles with motivation to train. Like I think it's a very rare trait that somebody actually like it's in the case of you and me where we are obsessed with training and we'll do it for freaking 13 years straight and like have no issue with it, like, and continue training. And I think it comes down to two things. One is the why, like finding your why. And then the second aspect of it, I think, is community. I think if you surround yourself with people that have like similar goals, then there's no like you'll train. For example, like I remember when we used to have a lot of sessions here in Florida, that like all those guys were pretty consistent with training, and I think it's because every week there would be a dunk meetup, a new dunk session. So I think, I mean, obviously it's tough now because one, the dunk community isn't very big in terms of like you can go to any city and there's going to be a group of people that are dunking, and two, COVID also threw a wrench in that. I think finding a community like online is hugely important of guys that can hold you accountable. And this is something that me and John actually talked about implementing, was some kind of like dunk competition, like weekly dunk competitions, monthly dunk competitions, because that can be a source of motivation to train, where it can be almost like a sport, like it's a season. Like, you know, every week there's going to be a competition you're going to try to compete and show out for, and there's going to be guys that all know each other doing it. That can be a source of motivation for it as well. So I think that should be a priority for any athlete. Like, even if you're on THP specifically too, like I would connect with guys in the Facebook group and try to keep regular contact with them and see, that way you have people that keep you accountable in that regard. But yeah, that's huge, especially if you struggle with like intrinsic motivation, at least for yourself. Community's huge part of that. And then to touch on the other point about the injury thing, learning your body, also massively important. I think one of the guys that get the best at dunking are the guys that are able to dunk consistently. Not even just train consistently. You have to be healthy enough to be training and dunking consistently. I mean, that doesn't mean dunk every day or stuff like that. Like, obviously stick to the training, dunk once a week or twice a week if that's in your plan, but you have to know your body. Like John said, you have to know when to push and when to back off. Like at the end of the day, you know how you feel best. Like, we might program something for you, but there might be something unforeseen. There might be a night where you didn't get sleep, and then maybe you had an argument with family, and then you got hit with a test, and then you feel like an ache somewhere. Like, that might be a day that you have to back off the training a little bit. Maybe it's a day where it might not be a good idea to do that jump session. But yeah, you have to know your body in order to keep progressing consistently over time.
Yeah. I think, like I said, the number one trait that our best athletes have is consistency. And I think that really sums up what do you have to do as one of our athletes? It's consistency, but it's also, okay, how do I do that? Well, stay motivated. Don't get hurt. I mean, what else was there? don't get bogged down by in-season stuff. I mean, that's like, it's more like what not to do. I think if you're talking about icing on the cake, you know, oh, is it the supplements? Is it the nutrition? Is it the, you know, X, Y, and Z? Then I guess you could maybe list out some other ones like big rocks. You know, if you were to ask me, John, how did you get to a point where your vertical was as high as it is? You know, how do you're doing crushing one-handers, you're almost hitting an East Bay now, you've hit a windmill on 10 feet, and that's all basically over the last year and a half since you've been like really focusing on dunking. What was it that got you to that point? Or now you're speed jumping off your right foot and actually looks pretty good. How did you progress to that point where you were doing that, right? Or you're just making progress every single year, every single month? I mean, obviously, the plan is probably the most important thing. The plan's probably the most important thing. And then the second thing is my plan B options. Meaning whenever my plan A, the plan that's in place, doesn't work, I make changes to it myself that work for me. And knowing how to do that and knowing when to do that, or having like someone like myself or Isaiah do it, I mean, that equips you and that equips your training to be better and better than it otherwise would have been if you're just following like something written in pen. I always say like write in pencil. Why do you write in pencil? Because things change. Things change all the time. And I'm not beholding to any one thing. I'm not at all. You'll hear I'm constantly changing my opinions on like jump technique and rehab and I mean everything. Like as soon as I learn something new, I like put it into practice and I test it out. And you know, if I learn something from evidence or I observe something anecdotally, okay, does this stand the test of time? Is this repeatable? And if it's repeatable and I'm like, okay, this is repeatable, or if it's not repeatable, why is it not repeatable? And there's a legitimate reason why, then like, yeah, it makes sense. And then I can make changes to it or whatever else. I think the same thing is true for like training in general as well. Our best athletes are able to implement certain things to the best of their ability and again, consistently do that and then communicate with us. I think that's probably another thing that our best athletes or the ones that make a lot of progress, one thing that they do really well is they communicate with us, but effectively. They're not just talking to us to talk to us. Like our best athletes are asking us important questions. They're not just like giving me a daily update. They're not just like, honestly, they usually don't have to ask those questions because they're that invested where they're looking it up themselves. I think that's another big thing that actually I would say that's actually something that is underlying, that is actually incredibly important, is taking ownership of your program, taking ownership of your athleticism. You should be doing the research as well. You should be researching your Olympic weightlifting technique. You should be researching your jump technique. You should be researching, I mean, anything you're doing, you should be double checking back to see how does this look? How does this look myself? You know, what do I think of this, right? You can obviously bounce that off of us, but like you should take ownership of that.
There's a good example. I think he's in season right now or something like that, but Nick Newhoff, he was on our training for a long ass time. And I remember specifically with the Olympic lifts, he took initiative on like getting perfect technique with that. And how he would frame his questions, it would be, yo, John, Isaiah, I looked up this drill I got this drill from YouTube, and I'm working on different like parts of my clean technique. I tried to focus on getting my hip extension up and this and this. What do you think? Like, did I do it properly? He took ownership, worked on his technique during his warm up, like focusing on something that he saw wrong, and then he used us as like a second
we're
source.
The sounding
it was like,
board,
all right,
yeah. Like we're the sounding board. We're like that. We're consulting too. You know what I mean? Like we give, you know, we give you the canvas and we paint on the canvas and we give you everything you need so that your programming and your program is going to be as specific to you as possible. But at the end of the day, there might not be things that we know. There might not be things we see because we're not in person. We're not standing there with you. And in online training, like you said, someone like Nick Newhoff, taking ownership over his training, taking videos of it, adding something into his warm-up that he knows isn't going to hurt him. I mean, that goes a long way. if you're looking at even just at him with his sprinting, he'd be like, I've been looking at this in this video and these guys seem to do this, this, and this. And I'm like, that's a good point. Here's what you're doing. Here's what they're doing. Here's the discrepancy, right? Here's where things are going wrong. Here's maybe some other ways you should think about this. And the same thing happens with Isaiah all the time. He'll tell me like, yo, I'm feeling this, this, and this. And I'm like, okay, well, have you thought about X, Y, and Z? And he does the same thing for me. Whenever I had a back injury or whatever, and I was like, dude, I don't know what to do. Like, it's not getting better, blah, blah, blah. He's like, just keep doing what you're doing. Do stuff that doesn't hurt. I mean, he talked me into a position that was like, I'm taking ownership over this, but Isaiah is that sounding board for me, right? I wrote most of my training during that time, and I did everything I could to stay healthy and get strong and et cetera, but I needed someone to talk to reaffirm that, I think. So
a really good example of that with me that recently happened is my warm-up. So on the warm-up that we implement, it says jump warm-up, and it'll say 10 to 100% jumps. Something I've been focusing a lot the last 3 weeks has been like, what is ideal as far as like with my tendinopathy, like what does it respond to best? And I've been talking with John. I'll literally be like, hey, like I took 10 layups, 10 medium effort jumps, and then 10 easy jumps, and then 10 medium effort jumps, and my quad felt better. And like I'll tell him, and then he's like, oh, okay, like yeah, that works, and I'll keep doing it. I don't have to have him change it on the app itself. Like it says jump warm up, but I know for me that's what helps me. That's what helps me feel best, and that was me taking ownership of the training. And it's not saying like, oh, like fuck you, like we're not. Oh, what do you think we are? Your mom gonna spoon feed you?
Yeah, it's not like we're trying to like. We're not trying to say like, well, do it yourself. Like, we're like, we're trying to facilitate you being as successful as you can possibly be by yourself, right? We're trying to give you the tools to help you be as successful as you can possibly be without our help. But there are certain things that are going to work better for you that only you know. Only you are going to know that. And
ISOs is a other perfect
ISOs
example.
Are a great one.
ISOs,
not every ISO works the same for everyone.
Yeah, ISOs basically you have to do them every single workout. There's a lot of times we won't put them in the training because there's an understanding that the athlete, if they've been training with us and they went through the entire load management process, tendon rehab process.
And it's said in the notes.
They were doing ISOs
every single day. And we explained
there's
why.
an understanding that you should keep doing them every day. Every off day you get 3 times a day before every workout.
Yeah, that's a really good example.
You've done them so many times to that point. That's taking ownership of your training. That's good for you. Like keep doing it.
Yeah, I think to sum it up, as we said, consistency is one of the biggest things. Taking ownership over your own programming is probably another, and communicating with us when you need to communicate with us. I think those are probably the 3 big rocks. If you're going to ask me about diet, yeah, that falls into taking ownership over your training. If you're a fat blob and you're not going to be able to jump. You're not going to be able to jump high if you're fat. So you need to take ownership over that, and you need to count your calories, and you need to lose weight. I'm in that right now. I'm taking ownership over the fact that I've been gaining weight, and I've been trying to lose a little bit of weight and lean up so I can jump higher. And I'm already doing that, right? I've been counting my calories every day. I'm consuming 2,400 calories, and I'm just dropping down my body weight. I feel fine. I feel good. And I'm going to get that body weight down to where, I can perform at whatever level I need to perform at, and that's on me. You know what I mean? No one's telling me to do that. And if I have questions or whatever, I can always, for me, I would I guess I would know the answer myself. But you guys, you can always bounce questions off us if you're one of our athletes, and we can try to help you and assist you in that. If you're full service, you have access to that. You have access to any question you would have about your caloric intake or how much protein you should be taking in, or whether you're getting the right amino acids or what micronutrients you should be taking in. Like, you can ask us those questions. So that falls into taking ownership over your own training. I think maybe another one is sleep. I would say I don't even know if sleep is necessarily something that determines whether our best athletes continue to get better. I think that, again, falls into ownership. If you take ownership over your own training, if you sleep poorly, you're going to train poorly. And so it's no one's fault other than yourself if you train like shit, right? And I think, if you want to be optimal, if you're trying to optimize everything and you're trying to be the perfect client and you're taking ownership over that, well, realistically, you're probably not going to sleep perfectly every day. But in a perfect world, you'd get 8 hours plus of sleep, or your body and how much sleep you need to recover. And in a perfect world, you wouldn't work on your feet all day. You would have a job where you're sitting, and then your on feet time is when you're training. And in a perfect world, you would take every supplement that's going to benefit you. So in my opinion, that's a fish oil and multivitamin and protein. I think those ones are, and collagen and vitamin C. Vitamin C, I guess, would fall in the multivitamin. But in a perfect world, you do that. Most times it's not realistic for most people because it's a massive investment. Isaiah's amped. But
sorry,
no, you're good.
I've been trying my best to contain this shit, bro.
Other than that, I can't think of anything. Doing the ISOs, maybe being consistent. If you have tendon pain, being consistent with your ISOs is probably another one. I can't think of any. Can you think of anything like sprinkles?
McGill Big 3. If you have
back pain, staying consistent with McGill Big 3. What else?
I've literally taken at least 2 walks and done 2 sets of McGill Big 3 every day since like August. Like, haven't missed a day. Literally haven't missed a day. ISOs, I haven't missed a day.
I'm trying to think of what else there is that would be like icing on the cake, sprinkles on top of the donut.
I don't know, stuff like technique work.
You think walkthroughs would probably be another one. Visualization, like a really good athlete would do visualization every day, probably like at least a little bit, 10 to 15 minutes. I mean, it depends how much time you want to invest. Like if someone had 40 hours a week to train or something like that, I mean, realistically, you don't need that much. Let's say 20 to 25 hours, which is a shit ton of time. I would say you're doing visualization, your diet's on point, you do all the things I just talked about with your diet. Maybe you even go as far as to count your calories and figure out, take notes of how your body feels with certain things. Take notes of how your body feels at a certain caloric intake with certain micronutrients added in or not added in. Take notes of your sleep and keep track of that. Take notes of how your body feels. Literally in a notebook every day. Journal, basically, how you're feeling. I'd say that would be a big one. Visualization and meditation. I think if you added that in, there's a lot of benefit to doing that. Seeing yourself make certain dunks, seeing yourself do certain things that are realistic for you to do, but seeing yourself achieve those goals, that would be massive if you're really trying to just kick it up to the next level. Training consistently, not getting bogged down with other shit, not drinking alcohol, not smoking weed, not smoking cigarettes, not doing drugs. Like that's a big one too if you really want to optimize it. This is me going into like, if I were working with an Olympic athlete, these are the expectations I would have for them, right? I think maybe the next one would be hydration. You want to really optimize hydration, okay? Or you want to really be optimal. You're trying to get to the absolute pinnacle of recovery. And some of this isn't sustainable, but I'm just saying if it were, this is what I would do. Taking in X number of cups of water a day. I don't know what the daily recommendation is for athletes, but knowing what that is and making sure you're doing that every single day. You could go as far as to count your micronutrients and make sure you're getting in all your micronutrients every day. Like you could go as far as doing that. Most people probably won't. But if you're asking me and you want to know what is the absolute pinnacle of what an athlete can do, you could do that. I would say having your meals prepped and having all that stuff set up for you and having everything met as far as your macro micronutrient needs, you could do that. Most of that stuff is like, I'd say diet and sleep are big ones, like sleeping in a cool room, having a perfect mattress, not having any distractions, putting your phone down at 8 o'clock, not looking at blue light, having blue light lenses. What else would you say, Zay? I can't think of anything else.
Minimizing time on your feet.
I said that one earlier. I don't know if you heard that. You were probably too amped thinking about dunking. Minimizing time on your feet would be a big one. Only training, basically. Having basically no stress in your life. Posture. Having perfect posture all the time. What else would we add? I'd say having...
minimizing stress.
Yeah, I said that one.
Don't be in a relationship.
I think if you're in a relationship, it just has to be something where, like, it's like Matt Frazier. If you want to see...
You're not having sex because it's going to...
There's some evidence that it might actually be better for you, but still. Yeah, really? If you don't feel guilty about it and it makes you happy, then yeah, for sure. I mean, it can be positive.
No, I was thinking of it as like a...
Like if you do no nut?
Fatigue. Like if you're like going in,
like... Okay, let's just not go there. The point is that you have to optimize recovery in as many ways as possible. One of the best athletes to actually look at for this stuff, I would say, is look at CrossFit athletes. CrossFit athletes are probably the best athletes at recovering. They're better than track and field athletes. I think they're way better than track and field athletes. CrossFit athletes are so dialed in. If you were to think about like what they do, I mean, they're optimal. Everything they are doing is optimal. As far as mindset is concerned, study CrossFit athletes. I mean, people can shit on the sport as much as they want, but those athletes are so dialed in when it comes to optimizing everything.
They're tryhards.
They're max tryhards. Like, that's all they care about. Matt Frazier basically has a girlfriend, a wife, just to cook and clean for him so he doesn't have to think about it, so he can just train and watch TV and eat. That's basically his job. His job is train while my girlfriend cooks everything for me without me having to process it or think about it, and basically serves as a giant emotional support animal that cleans up for me and also helps me sleep better at night. Like, I don't know if that's actually true. That was actually probably very rude. But best case scenario, all you're doing is recovering and training.
Yeah.
That'd be the best example.
No school, no job.
It's not very sustainable. Realistically, you might check some of those boxes. You're probably not going to check all of them unless you're literally a professional athlete where like you're
stay off social media.
Yeah, get your mindset right. Go see a therapist, like a sports psychologist.
Meditate.
I said that one already.
Pray.
I didn't really say that one, but yeah, that would help too. Pray you'll hit the dunk.
Pray you'll hit the dunk. That's visualization.
Yeah. Watch a lot of anime.
No, proper visualization is I hit that dunk. I hit that.
And seeing yourself hit it and feel yourself hit it.
I literally just saw myself do 360 behind the back, East Spade, double back.
All right, guys. That all said, we've literally listed off as much as we could possibly think of. We just brain dumped everything that we possibly could into this podcast. Isaiah is fuming right now.
There's still 3.5 more
and
hours.
I just want to leave you guys with this before I leave. In the comments section, if you listen this far, I want you to tell me who would win in a fight. A grizzly bear, or a gorilla.
A silverback
gorilla. Or brown bear or grizzly bear, or a silverback gorilla. I heard Joe Rogan discuss this, and it really just prompted a lot of thought from me. And I just want to say, the grizzly bear has knives for fingers. I don't care if the gorilla has thumbs. The bear has knives for fingers.
That's crazy when you think about it. Like,
not only that,
a grizzly bear is literally like if that animal didn't exist on Earth and it suddenly appeared, people would freak the fuck out.
A grizzly bear?
They'd be like,
it's like, hey, look, I want you to imagine this. You know, you have a dog, right? It's like, it's your dog times, how much is your dog? 80 pounds? Oh, it's a dog times 10. It's 10 times the size of a dog. It has more fur, right? It looks like a giant dog. And also its claws are massive. Its claws are basically talons coming out of its paws. It can walk on 2 legs. It can stand up on 2 legs and walk on 2 legs. It can also walk on 4 legs. It can run 35 miles an hour, and it weighs 800 pounds. It's basically a giant dog designed to kill you with a fur-shielded coat. So even if you were to stick a knife in it, it's got like 7 inches of fur. You won't even meet its skin until you get through the fur. So if you punch it, if you're a gorilla and you punch it, guess what? Did you ever get punched while you're wearing a super puffy coat? You don't feel shit. Did you ever get stabbed while you're wearing a super puffy coat?
The other animal that's crazy, that's a killing machine for no reason, like why does that have to exist?
An orca.
Is a gator, bro. An alligator. A crocodile.
I think a bear would. I don't even think it would be close.
In the water?
I think the bear's smart enough. It'd be like, I know there are gators in here.
But
actually,
if you
a
stuck
crocodile.
A grizzly
It
bear
wouldn't even be
water.
a gator. It'd be a crocodile.
Yeah.
It'd have to be a crocodile.
Saltwater crocodile.
Saltwater
Those fucking
crocodile.
20-foot motherfucker.
But listen, we're not making that argument right now. All we're going is gorilla versus a grizzly bear.
Wait, comment that one too. Who would win? A saltwater crocodile or a Nile crocodile or a grizzly bear in the water?
But that's not even close to fair. That's not even close to fair.
All right, one in the water and one in land.
Oh, I think that's obvious. I think the gator wins in the water, or the crocodile wins in the water, and the bear wins on land.
Yeah. Crocodiles can get big as fuck, though, bro.
I'm just thinking, even if a gator or crocodile grabbed the grizzly bear's leg, like, I could see...
Bro,
but let me ask you this.
About how they
have other animals on land beating Nile crocodiles? Have lions eaten crocodiles?
I think hippos. A hippo versus a grizzly bear.
Oh.
That would be a battle.
Oh, man. So wait, hippos have killed crocodiles?
Hippos, yeah, they fuck out crocodiles.
This is like chess.
Bro, a hippo versus a grizzly bear.
Hold on.
Insane.
I want to see if a lion carrying Nile crocodile is a real thing. If it's a real thing, Dude,
crocodiles fuck up lions, I think.
African lion versus Nile crocodile.
I've like looked up videos.
So crocodiles kill lions?
Yeah.
So then the question is this. Oh, here's a lion holding a crocodile by the neck. All right? I'm just saying.
Ugh.
I'm just saying that it's...
Bro, a hippo is 4,000 pounds.
No way.
Yeah.
So so I'd say, generally speaking, in water, a crocodile is going to win. I'd say that's true. But also that crocodiles have lost to lions.
Bro, hippos are way bigger than grizzly bears.
Yeah. So a hippo versus a grizzly bear. Dude, think about this though. If all the grizzly bear's got to do, bro, if it knows how to fight, I mean that I don't know though, bro. Can a hippo
fucking jujitsu.
Can a hippo turn its head
could,
sideways and latch on to the chest of a grizzly bear? It's dead, dude. That done.
Yeah.
Dunzo, not even close.
But I feel like a grizzly bear might be more mobile than a hippo.
Grizzly bears can move 35 miles an hour. In water, it's not even close, dude. Hippo every time. Especially if the hippo does a sneak attack, which I don't know if it would.
Hippos can run 30 miles an hour.
No way. No way.
4,000 pounds, it can run. Yo, hippos are tanks.
Hippo versus rhino. That's a thing. Oh, man. Okay, so that actually occurs. Hippos actually do encounter... It appears as though hippos may have actually encountered rhinos. And I think the rhino may have won.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, I think... I don't know. I haven't YouTubed it yet. Would have to look that up. But...
Rhinos are 5,000 pounds.
Okay, so would a grizzly bear beat a rhino?
A rhino is fucking an armored, like, military truck with horns.
Rhino versus bear. Who would win that? Dude, a bear could sit on a rhino on top. Rhinos are so big, a bear could sit on it like a human being and ride it into battle.
To fight the hippo.
Exactly. Here's a better one for you. A gorilla riding a hippo or a bear riding a rhino? If someone is an artist here listening to that, I want you to draw me a portrayal, and I will hang this in my apartment. I will buy it and I will hang it in my apartment if it's good enough, of a bear riding a rhino and a gorilla riding a hippo into battle. If someone can paint me that, I will hang it up in my apartment. I will pay money for that. All right, guys. Thanks for listening to the episode. If you made it this far, leave a comment below. We will see you on tomorrow's episode. Peace out.